President Trump plans to sign an executive order he says will drastically lower drug prices. The order would direct the Department of Health and Human Services to tie what Medicaid pays for medication that are administered in a doctor's office to the lowest price paid by other countries. The most favored nations policy is something the president tried to implement in his first term, but it was blocked by a court order. The plan is expected to face stiff opposition from the pharmaceutical company.
President Trump has done it again with the stroke of his pen. Now he has taken another step to make life easier, that much better for Americans. This time he's doing it with the pharmaceutical industry. President Trump has signed an executive order that can slash pharmaceutical prescription drug prices up to 80%, making it to where the cost that Americans pay be equal to the lowest price paying nation, rather than when we get our prescriptions over here, it's 100 times more expensive than what it is in other countries around the world. So whatever the cheapest nation is getting that pharmaceutical for and giving it to the people for, that's exactly what we get it for. And you know what? The Democrats are going to try to fight back against this. Why? Simply because they have TDS. So in this video, we're going to go into some of the details, and then I'm going to let you hear what President Trump has to say about it, because another victory for America. And guess what? You know the pharmaceutical companies are going to push back against this, but here's the kicker. These companies have been making record-breaking profits. And I'm a capitalist. I'm all about companies making their money. If you have a good product or service and it has value, you should, price it accordingly. But there's a difference between pricing accordingly and making profits and just maxing out and taking advantage of people and monopolize. I won't even call it monopolize, and more of an arbitrage, where it's kind of like, where else they gonna go get it? People don't have the resources to go to Mexico or go out to other countries and get this same pharmaceutical drug. So what do? They tax it here. So it's an arbitrage opportunity, and an arbitrage is an opportunity to make abnormal commissions off of a product or a service, wherein otherwise you wouldn't be able to make that money. It's kind of like years ago when that one gentleman, his name slips my mind, but he bought the patent, he bought the rights to a HIV drug. And he ended up going to prison for a couple of years, but he bought the HIV drug and then increased the price like 7,500%. And people couldn't afford that. And it was costing people their lives. Martin Shkreli, he also spent $2 million on like a Wu-Tang album, but look him up. He bought the HIV drug, and just because people couldn't go anywhere else, he increased the price of it like 7,500%. Well, that's gouging. So President Trump, to protect Americans, has signed an executive order. Now, we know, though, with executive orders, they are only as good as the president that's sitting in that seat. Until something changes legislatively, the next administration could come along and wipe that out. But here's the kicker with President Trump's big, beautiful bill. If the Democrats push back against the big, beautiful bill, guess what happens? Americans miss out on the savings. So he has tied the savings into the bill, meaning Democrats single-handedly will be responsible for Americans paying higher pharmaceutical prices. But let's get into the article, then I'll let President Trump explain it to you himself. Trump signs an order aiming to lower U.S. drug costs to match prices abroad. The executive orders gives pharmaceutical companies 30 days to negotiate lower drug prices with the government. Washington. President Donald Trump signed an executive order Monday aimed at lowering drug prices by pressuring pharmaceutical companies to align their U.S. pricing models with those in similarly wealthy countries. We'll slash the cost of prescription drugs and will bring fairness to America, Trump said at a morning White House event. We're all going to pay the same. The executive order, with the White House dubbed the most favored nation policy, gives pharmaceutical companies 30 days to negotiate lower drug prices with the government. If no deal is reached within that time, Trump said a new rule will be set so that the United States will have a price model similar to the lower rates patients abroad pay. According to the executive order, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would be responsible for the rulemaking to impose most favored nation pricing. We're going to pay the lowest price there is in the world, Trump said. Prescription pricing for brand name drugs in the U.S. is more than 4 times higher than in similar countries, according to the 2024 study by the nonpartisan research nonprofit RAND. And that's insane. Why are we paying 4 times more? And we had government officials that were going for it. It's all them kickbacks. You got your Elizabeth Warrens and your Bernie Sanderses that love the donations from the pharmaceutical industries. Look at the CNN and MSNBC. You want to know who's paying for those shows? Look at the end when it says sponsored by, or look at the commercials. You see none but Pfizer, Moderna, commercials, Johnson & Johnson. That's all you see. That's who's funding these left-wing extremist propaganda TV shows too. So you know they're going to push back against this. A White House official previewing the policy in a background call with reporters Monday said the president will direct the Department of Commerce to take all appropriate action on countries that suppress drug pricing abroad. The Food and Drug Administration will also consider expanding imports of pharmaceutical drugs from nations beyond Canada, the White House said. The White House official said. Former President Joe Biden issued an executive order to direct the FDA to work with states to import prescription drugs from Canada. The White House official said Kennedy will set clear targets for price reductions across all markets in the United States. Kennedy appeared at the White House alongside the president Monday morning. The United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we were doing, Kennedy said. If the Europeans raise their price of their drugs by just 20%, that is tens of trillions that could be spent on innovation and the health of all people across the globe. Trump said Monday the drug pricing policy would be included in the One Big Beautiful Reconciliation Bill that is the top priority of congressional Republicans. The measure is also expected to provide tax cuts and a significant funding increase to border security. Staff on the House and Energy Commerce Committee told reporters twice during a background briefing around the same time that most favored nation prescription drug pricing would not be in that reconciliation package. If you enjoyed this video, do me a solid, hit that like button, because I'll never ask you for a cash app or a super chat, but you hitting that like button, it really does help the channel. It helps spread the information around. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. On the Real Politics Podcast, that's what we do. We talk real politics. So once you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell, then select all. That way you'll be notified when I upload new videos. All right, so let's get into what President Trump has to say about it. Trump just said U.S. drug price will be cut by 30 to 80% in a new executive order. This is what Trump had to say. Then I'll get into the video clip. For many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States of America were so much higher in price than they were in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug manufactured in the same exact laboratory or plant by the same company. It was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there was no correct or rightful answer. The pharmaceutical drug companies would say for years that it was research and development costs, and that all of these costs were and would be for no reason whatsoever borne by the suckers of America alone, which means other countries aren't paying these crazy prices, but we are. But let's listen to President Trump lay it all out, and I'm going to let this one play on out, and that way you'll be able to hear what he has to say.
Say it.
How do you respond to the fact that this?
It's not price control. No. What was price control is before. If you want to talk about price control, is what they were doing. They were making us pay. They set a price, and they said, "Here's what we're going to pay, and anything else charge America." Because at that time they had a very stupid president, and it really went crazy during the last 4 years. And remember this: the Democrats are the ones that allowed this to happen. They were the ones that were the protector of this pricing system. And I think it's going to be very hard. You'll have to ask Democrats, are they going to vote against the one great, big, beautiful deal that's being negotiated now, tax cuts, etc., when now on top of the tax cuts and regulation cuts, all the things, now you're going to say that the price of your medicine is going down by 60, 70, 80%. You're going to vote against it? I think a lot of Democrats are going to be forced to do something that their leaders are going to beg them not to do, and that's vote for the bill. I don't see how they can vote against it. How can they vote against it when drug prices, drugs and pharmaceuticals are going to be down 70, 80%? It's going to be very interesting.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
Your ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
Only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. Then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully, sir, as a businessman,
What he's talking about is the Qatar government donated a plane to the United States, and it's like a flying palace is what they consider it. It's a super jet, extremely luxurious, and they gifted it. And President Trump checked it out, and he said, what am I going to do? I could be an idiot and say no, or I could say thank you very much. And of course, you got the lamestream media, you know, bringing it up as if it's a problem. But if he would have rejected it, the same lamestream media would have said he's hurting diplomatic relations by refusing a jet from Qatar.
some people may look at this and say, have you ever been given a gift worth millions of dollars and then not received
It's not
anything?
a gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better, because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is a disaster. Here is the bill. Buddy, come on over here. Now you're talking about trillions and trillions.
He just keeps making these fools look insane. And for her to bring that up, they gifted him a jet. And again, he accepted it, and they didn't gift it to him. It was to the Department of Defense. And they call it a flying palace. It is so luxurious. They say it's extremely beautiful. And President Trump had checked it out. And this from the government of Qatar. And what's crazy about these left-wing extremist Democrats is that they're okay with Qatar when it comes to things that they're involved with. And when the Qatar government is doing things for the Biden regime and whatnot, they want to get in good graces with President Trump. Why? Because they know that Qatar government has been involved in some fuddy-duddy stuff in their relations with Hamas. Okay, so they know what they're doing. And you got, again, like he said, ABC News, these folks are enemies of the United States of America. They're anti-American, they're anti-Trump, they're anti-you and I. They are pro-destruction and pro-chaos. And whenever everything's going well, you saw that press conference, good information, slashing pharmaceutical prices. People should be happy. And what does she want to do? She wants to bring up a topic trying to scandalize a kind gesture from another country. When they say all other countries don't like America, they don't want to work with America. But yet China came to the table. The EU has already done a deal. Qatar has sent over a gift. But everybody hates Trump and no leaders want to work with them. Their whole storyline, their whole spiel, they're looking more and more deranged and delusional every day. And that's why people don't trust them and why their ratings are in the toilet and the independent media is dominating the space. So, hey, I just wanted to bring you this great information that President Trump, again, is fighting for the American people. Now he's cutting pharmaceutical and prescription drug costs up to 80% and bringing those profits and those benefits back to the American people to keep in our pockets, and the big, beautiful bill and the tax cuts. And there's so many things that are in it. The next spin they're going to try to do, because one thing they're doing with Medicaid, and remember I said it, they're getting able-bodied men and women off Medicaid, off. The people that are eligible and that deserve it and need it, they'll be on it. But the able-bodied ones are going to fight tooth and nail. And the Democrats are going to run with the storyline, oh, they're cutting Medicaid. They are. They're cutting off the eligible able-bodied men and women off so that the people that do need it will have money upon monies there for those folks, those men and women who really need it, rather than the well being close to running dry because we got lazy people that's taking advantage of a system that has loopholes in it the size of the Grand Canyon. But hey, I digress from that. If you stuck in and watched this far, I want to say thank you. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and tell me what you think. But most importantly, I want you to be safe and you stay great. I'm Brian Maxwell saying I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.